Hey, everybody, this is Adam Strum, and we're about to go cruising into a better financial future with your host, Kim Cruz. Hey, everybody, it's time to go cruising into a better financial future with your host, Kim Cruz.
Hi, Adam. Thank you so much. I am Kim Cruz. I'm a wife, a mom, daughter, sister, friend, entrepreneur, and business owner of Cruz Credit Consulting, but not necessarily in that order. I have over 30 years experience in corporate America and a passion for helping people succeed in all areas of life. I'm joined by my great friend, Adam Strum. He's actually the brains behind this production. Adam?
That would be me, I guess. I am nothing without you, Kim. I'll say that right up front. I love doing this. My name's Adam Strum. I'm co-CEO of U.S. Financial Alliance, 14 companies helping everyone with everything financial from debt relief all the way up to million and multi-million dollar projects in real estate. I also run a small company called On Target Strategies, helping new businesses get rolling for that first year, and then we pass them off to bigger companies. We just want to help people get on the right start and the right footing. Last but not least, I am a proud co-host of Kim Cruz here at Cruising into a Better Financial Future. So go ahead, Kim.
Awesome. And together we review our listeners' financial problems and address them with our experience, tips, tricks, and resources of network referrals to help you cruise into a better financial future. And we have such a fun guest today. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
We do have someone special today. There's no doubt about that. Whether you've seen him perform magic, which he does all the time, or you might have listened to him sing, possibly even a song that he's written himself, as he is a singer and songwriter, professional magician, pretty good juggler at that. He's laughing right now. Our guest today runs a business that helps promote other businesses, which is why we have him on. Magnet Productions is his company, and that company employs people like Ken himself in order to go to trade shows for businesses, become a draw for people to recognize and just make businesses more visible at trade shows, at special conventions. And his team will even come into a business and get the attention of employees who are otherwise bored with all the trainings they do, and they'll present a hell of a training. But I want to go to the other side for a minute. He's an actor as well. I mean, the man's done a little bit of everything, and I do a little bit of everything, so I have nothing but respect for that. But one of the most important things he's done is over the past, I think is it 10 or 20, Ken? How many years have you been donating all of your proceeds from your music?
That probably started about 12 years ago through different charities
I
and then
knew
my
it was
own charity.
between 10 and 20,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
You're in the sweet spot right there.
yep. So all the proceeds from his musical endeavors are going to a charity that he helped create called Blanket the Homeless,
Mhm.
which is a package of necessities that is literally just handed to people that have nowhere to go. This includes a Mylar blanket to help keep them warm. It includes toothpaste, toothbrushes, all the little necessities to make life a teeny bit easier for the people that really need it the most. And that being said, I want to introduce our guest for today, Mr. Ken Newman.
Hello, thank you so much, Kim. It's a pleasure to be here. Adam, for that intro. I've already got a call in to my partners. We're bringing you on board as our full-time ad writer and marketing representative. I swear to God, I've been introduced so many different ways and so many different times. Yes, he's performed with David Blaine. No, I have no, and David Copperfield calls him one of the. No, we never
Now,
did.
wait a minute. Wait, I know David Blaine. I met David Blaine at Abracadabra in New York City.
Good guy.
He's a hell of a nice guy. He's
Really
nothing
is.
like the person he plays on TV. That's the funny
No,
part.
that's yeah. We're all we're all.
He's funny and outspoken, and
Yep.
on TV he's always so quiet and shy. And I love that. I love that he puts on a game face to
Yeah.
perform his street magic. I'll let
People
you keep
don't give
going. I
him
didn't mean to
credit. People
interrupt.
don't give him the credit that he deserves. He really, a lot of magicians will acknowledge, even if they're not crazy about his personality, whatever, that he really changed the game. he was another kind of paradigm shifter in magic, because he said, "Oh, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to turn the camera on the audience. I'm going to focus on their reaction." And people were like, "Oh my God, right? Yeah,
Right.
that's
He
kind of
brought
the
he
point."
brought
He's
street
amazing.
magic to the public. I
Yeah,
mean,
Yep.
literally.
absolutely. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
always
He's
been done,
Huge
but-
fans here in our house of his.
yeah. He's a really good close-up guy too. So a lot
All
of,
right,
props to him.
So Ken, I want you to tell us about two things before we get into the regular show format. I
Sure.
want you to tell us a little bit more about Magnet Productions and what you guys do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Magnet Productions came out of a company that I'd had before that called Newman Productions. We were using what we had learned from my first professional acting job in educational theater, taking complicated, difficult subjects and using humor to communicate them. We were doing shows for kids all over the state of California. It was the largest educational theater company in the country. We performed for millions of kids on things like, oh my God, teen sexuality, multiracial themes, environmental awareness, bullying, whatever. We would go into the school, 45-minute, 3 actors, each playing 12 or 15 different characters, incorporating music, games. And we would reach out to kids who, in tough neighborhoods who wouldn't typically just say, get the hell out of here. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm 12 years old. I know everything, inner city kids. And
Yep.
it worked. I mean, it worked. We knew that we were impacting these kids in a profound way, young pre-high school girls that weren't getting pregnant because they saw this show where we'd make fun of a guy getting pregnant, and how he couldn't play football anymore and he had to drop out of high school. So jump cut from there to doing corporate entertainment, using similar tools to help companies deal with things like corporate alcoholism, or even something far more benign like R&D and marketing battles. How do you get them to kind of connect with each other? Well, you give them a common enemy, make it the corporate office, who's imposing all these impossible things on them to make their jobs difficult, so they can look at each other and go, yeah, I don't hate you that much, we really hate them. So
So the enemy of my enemy
I
is my
love
friend.
it.
you got it. So the jokes, everything came out of that. And then we found ourselves more and more companies were sort of cutting their budgets back for some of their big entertainment, junkets, like taking, Sun Microsystems, Apple, Intel, HP. They took us to Hawaii, St. Thomas, Greece, whatever, like a dozen times a year. That sadly evaporated. And we realized, or I did, that it was better for me to kind of like look at what wasn't going to disappear, which was the need to market and sell your company's services. So we started doing a lot more trade shows. And we got into the trade show market, which is where Magnet Productions kind of started, doing what we called a heckler routine. We'd have somebody on stage positioned as a product specialist, and they'd get up there. We offer you a 24/7 mission critical paradigm shifting solution to enable cross-platform delivery. And we'd have somebody in the audience.
That was a good George Carlin impression, by the way.
Yeah,
Just in case you didn't think I noticed it.
Good reference, George Carlin, one of my heroes. We would have somebody in the audience dressed as like a kind of a trade show attendee with a basket full of stuff, pocket protector, horn rim glasses. He'd be taking the devil's advocate position, like, everybody says they've got the same technology. Come on, what the hell makes you guys so different? And people in the audience would turn around and go like, oh God, this is creepy. And then they'd realize it was a joke. And then we would use that as a way to break the fourth wall and involve the audience and communicate the message and pack the little theater. I mean, instead of 8 or 10 people sitting, it was 40 people sitting, 200 standing. Then we started to involve infotainment, where people would do magic tricks, and use that as a way to communicate the company's message. Or a guy riding a unicycle, getting out of a straitjacket, talking about security, or a game show, or a takeoff on CSI where somebody would die, but it was the network dying. And companies were spending a considerable amount of money already. They were spending $250,000 just to be at the show. And so we would say, look, for another 10 or 15%, we will get you a packed audience. We will get you your message communicated in a way that people actually will be entertained by and remember, and we'll get that traffic coming into the booth to talk to your people at the demo pods and generate, genuine, credible leads. And so that kind of became our strategy. And as you can well imagine, it went right down the crapper about 14 months ago.
Yep.
As
Right.
did most things about.
Yeah,
14
exactly.
months
So,
ago.
what did I do? I cried for 6 weeks, and then once I ran out of tears, I said, all right, well, my background is in film, theater, TV. I've been a producer my whole life. I worked with Apple TV and HP TV doing live broadcasts. I said, well, and I'm a musician. So I figured, how do I marry this whole mess, and incorporate the charity work as well and do things for, and that's what I've done for the last year. I started producing music videos for companies, online performances, commercials, commercial parodies, and it's not been easy, but it's been very, very satisfying and fun
Well,
to kind of
it's
figure out.
absolutely brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Thank-
I love the way you were able to transition, or as most people say, pivot with what's
Thanks.
going on.
Thanks.
And I
Thanks.
love the whole concept, even, I mean, backing up to the trade show and the infotainment that you provide. I checked out your website and absolutely amazing, amazing.
you
And
so
I
much.
can't wait to see something like that in person.
I can't
It'll
wait for you to
happen.
see it in person too.
Kim
I'm telling you.
Kim is not that far away from you. She's just outside of LA, so
Oh,
Yeah.
come
not that
up.
far away.
Come up. We'll
Yeah,
talk. We'll
exactly.
talk.
Now that being said, and I love everywhere you go, because what you do is you actually make the tell not sell interesting, which is not easy to do, because I've sat through more trade shows than I care to even mention. And I remember maybe 1/10 of everything I saw, if that, because you get so bored at those things. It's insane.
It's a great point.
But I want to get to the other part of this, because there's a heck of a story, and I've heard it told by you once before. You and I met in a networking group. That's how we met.
Yes, we did.
And I'm proud of knowing you. I mean, I'm glad to be on your Clubhouse every day that I can get there. It just happens in the middle of the day, and sometimes I'm wrapped up. But when I can get there, you have a good news only room on Clubhouse, where if you're coming in, make sure you have some good news to tell.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the good news about Blanket the Homeless.
Thank you. It's interesting. A long time ago, I was a travel photographer for a while, and I was doing my wife, my then wife and son and I were traveling around the world doing all these great trips and documenting it. And then I was also doing some of that in San Francisco. And one day I remember I had an assignment to shoot Compass Family Services, which it was actually called a Tenderloin Child Care Center. And it was basically kids of homeless people. And I remember taking the pictures and looking at these kids, and it really left an impression. I mean, well, I cried my eyes out, but it left a real impression on me. I grew up in this loving home with 3 siblings, and we were nurtured and loved. And my parents my dad didn't make any money, to speak of, but we always had what we needed. And these kids had nothing. They had nothing except a few little toys to play with, and a wonderful facility. And I remembered that when about 10 years later, I think, because my son, it would have been about 8 or 10 years later, I started doing music again after a long period of not doing it. I just didn't. I was busy being a dad and starting my company. And so I sold all my equipment. And this guy asked me to front a rock and roll band, cover band. So I said, sure, after some wrestling with the decision. I was thrilled I did. We started doing gigs. And I remember after one of the gigs, there was $50 in the tip jar. And I was walking down the street close to my house, and I had this epiphany. I kind of went like, this $50 split 5 ways. I mean, really, it barely took care of the parking. So I called the other guys in the band. I said, look, you guys all have companies and you're doing fine. I'm doing great. Can we just donate the money to a charity? And they said, sure, whatever you want to do with it is fine. So that day, I remember I was right on the corner of a coffee shop. I called Compass Family Services, which was no longer there. It was now part of, Tenderloin Child Care Center was no longer there, was now part of Compass Family Services. And this really sweet guy answers. And I said, I'd like to do a fundraiser. I've got a gig in 2 weeks at the Condor Club in North Beach. We're going to be playing for 3 hours in the afternoon. Would love to raise some money for you guys. He was like, oh my God, absolutely. I'll come down. I'll bring literature. And I said, if you want, I can talk to the audience. I said, I love that idea. So he shows up right in the middle of, some AC/DC cover or whatever. And people are like, yeah, I just said, look, if I can get you to kind of like, turn away from the whatever baseball game is on, and or the waitress you're flirting with, and I just want to talk about homelessness. And so I just talked about it. I talked about what I knew about the population in San Francisco, introduced my friend. He got up there and spoke. And then all of a sudden at the end of the gig, there's like $300 in the tip jar. I said, all this money is going to go to Compass Family Services. Turns out that Google was doing a matching campaign. They matched it. A month later, I was doing the gig again, and we had this. He wasn't there, but I had the literature. I was talking. Some drunk guy comes up and just goes, "Hey man, you guys know any Skinnerd?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, we don't." He goes, "That's cool, man." Comes back a little later. "You guys know any Molly Hatchet, man? I'm totally into that." I'm like, "I'm sorry, we don't." "Ah, man, that's cool." At the end of the gig, there's 2 $100 bills in the tip jar. It was from him. He had gone to the bank, to the ATM, pulled out 2 crisp 100s, threw it in there. There was another 600. Guy at the bar matched it. just wrote a check and handed it to me. He didn't know me from Adam, but he did anyway. And so bit by bit, we saw this is starting to work. Then I get on, Margaret's show is starting to do a fundraiser for the homeless called Be Robin, because Mike Pritchard, a mutual friend of theirs.
Yeah, this is the story I love.
Don't grieve Robin, be Robin. You know, she was devastated. We all were. I mean, Robin was a, you know, iconographic, and he was this genius comedian, actor, and we all saw him.
And I just want to say that I would give anything to be able to think as fast as Robin Williams thought.
Oh, yeah.
His brain moved at speeds that people can't even imagine. I met him twice.
Yeah.
His brain moved at speeds people can't even begin to imagine.
No. He was
I'm going to inject a little story.
Pilot of comedy. He really was.
He showed up at Brooklyn College, which is where I went. For a little bit, he was supposed to be a guest speaker for like 10 minutes or something. He happened to be doing New York City. And instead of doing that, he walks out on stage. He goes, go around the room, find some stuff and put it on the stage. And he walks off the stage. Comes back 10 minutes later. There's a bunch of stuff on the stage. He walks from the left side out onto the stage, grabs the first item, does a character, drops that, picks up the next item, totally different, and worked his way all the way to the right side of the stage. He had done like 17 different characters, and he had no idea what was going to be up there. So this was all unplanned, and he was able to improv it from one side to the other without even thinking about it.
I know.
And I was just in awe because I love comedy and I love improv. And, you know, I have a background similar to yours in a way. It's just I've never made it to your level. I used to get on the New York subway with an invisible deck in order to promote my magic. Now, you know how that works, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm just thumbing through this deck. It has no back. It has no face cards, nothing. It's just white cards all the way through. I'm thumbing through it. I'm cutting it. And people are like, what are you going to do with that? I'm like, play poker, of course. And they'd say, how do you play poker? There's nothing on it. I'm like, there's nothing on it. You don't see the queen? And then I cut it. It's another blank card. Or the 3. You can't tell that that's hearts. And then I just look down. I go, oh my God, are your eyes all right? And they're like, excuse me? I'm like, here, let me just show you again. And then I cut the deck and all of a sudden there's the 5 of hearts. And I cut it again and there's the 3 of diamonds. And I cut it again. There's the Jack of spades. Thumb through it. Every card has a picture. Turn it around. They all have red backs. Next thing you know, can I get your business card? I have an event coming up. I'd love to have you.
Dude, God almighty. Subway marketing.
Marketing. Well, New York City subways are packed, and you will find,
tell me about it. Yeah.
You'll find every denomination of life from millionaire to homeless person on the subway. So it was a great way to get some
strategy.
Yeah, weekend gigs. And I used to do a little bit of weekend walk around. I did bar mitzvahs, things like that, table to table, walk around magic. And so I come from a similar background. So I understand you when you did your magic number box on the networking event. I was loving that because I've done that 50 times.
Oh, the magic square, the magic number square?
Yeah, the magic number, magic square, magic number box, depends on, you know, what who you are.
No, that's it. I'm glad you know that one. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to let you continue how Robin played in. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted you to know I get it. How Robin played into Blanket the Homeless, because the connection is amazing.
Yeah. Robin, as we said, you know, we all loved him dearly. And when he passed away, it was horrible, really, really horrible. And Margaret and he were quite close. And Margaret showed, and she was really devastated. And she was talking to Mike Pritchard, another wonderful comedian, does a lot of work with kids, just a really, really good-hearted guy. And he had told her, you know, don't grieve Robin, be Robin. And she took that to heart. You know, a lot of people don't realize that in addition to his insane talent as a comedian, and as an actor, he was also a huge philanthropist, particularly for the homeless. You know, he had an actual writer.
I didn't get that. Can you try again?
Oh, sorry. Siri is talking to me. Go away. Hang on a second. That's hysterical.
It's okay, Ken.
No, it's not okay.
That's hilarious.
Siri,
there's no way I'm allowing them to cut
Excuse me. I know you're live, people. I have to talk to my computer right now. Give me a minute. No, I told you. You interrupt me again, I'm going to throw you out the window. Now, it's okay. I'm serious. Stop it. I mean, this little blinking light, this sweet. You don't know me. You don't know me. Don't call me Ken. You and Alexa are out of here. Sorry.
That's okay. Just replace them. Just replace them with Cortana. You'll be fine.
Unbelievable. I'm serious. You know, Alexa, please set the alarm for 7 a.m. And at 7 a.m. she goes, you know, snooze, Alexa. And she goes, well, you really do have to get up, you know. Like, no, I don't have to get up.
No.
Oh, Ken, you do have to get up. Get up right now, Ken, or I'm stripping the blankets off the bed and you can freeze your ass off for all I care. Alexa, so anyway, it's like that.
I walked in
That's
my
funny.
house. I'm like, Alexa, turn on the lights. Nothing happened. I'm like, Alexa, set the alarm. Nothing. Then I realized you have to have Alexa for that to work.
We have Google, and when you try
But I
talking
mean-
to Google and it's muted, it will say Google is muted.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
well, here's the thing, that not that we should be concerned about this one iota, but if you had a friend in the bedroom, just a friend, and his name was Frank, and you said, "Hey, Ralph," and he didn't answer you because his name's not Ralph, but he heard you say, "Hey, Ralph," and he chose not to answer, "Hey, Ralph." So whoever is in my bedroom, and no matter what I say, she's like, "That's going to the NSA. That's going to the NSA."
You know how big our files must be at this point? I mean, I don't even want to talk about
Oh
it.
yeah, we are toast. But anyway,
so-
back to Robin.
Back to
Yeah,
Robin
back to
and
Robin.
Margaret show.
So Margaret decides to do something called Beat Robin, and what she does is she sets her guitar case, and she has a friend, Jerry Lawler, who was another dear friend of mine, and they had gone to school together, and Margaret's doing her funny songs, her stand up. Jerry's doing his crazy interpretive dance, and there's a little piece of paper in the guitar case that says, "If you have, give; if you need, take." And people were throwing money in the case. When they realized who it was, she would break it into smaller denominations and pass it out to people on the street. I find out about this through a mutual friend, the guy who knows that I do music and that I do, I give my money away to charities. He said, "Try to find her because I think you should be involved in this thing." And I said, "All right." So I found her on Facebook. Didn't know if she'd respond to me because she doesn't know me. But I said, "Hey, I'd be very happy to get involved." And she said, "Do you have a busking amp?" Meaning a battery operated amp. And I said, "Of course." She said, "Great, take that and your guitar and your microphone or whatever you need and come down, meet me at the front of Larkin Street Youth Services," which is another charity organization that was developed during the Summer of Love for all the teenagers that stayed in San Francisco after like the acid wore off, and they decided like, well, where the hell am I? Whatever, they decided to stay, right? But a lot of them were homeless. And so this organization came up to sort of support them. And so I'm in front of the place after having gone to Guitar Center to buy the damn busking amp. I'm playing. And next thing I know, there's San Francisco Chronicle taking pictures. The KCBS truck is doing this. Margaret comes up to me and says, "Can I sing on this song?" I'm like, "Yeah." So the two of us are doing a duet. Bob Mould, the godfather of punk, basically, Husker Du and Sugar. He shows up because he lives in San Francisco. Some great comics. Mia Simmons from Frightwig, which was an all-girl punk band in the 80s. Roger Rocha, who was in Four Non Blondes. All these guys are congregating, and we're creating this literally an ad hoc street band performing on the street. And trucks are showing up with like 50 pounds of pasta, and somebody's showing up with phones. A woman sets up a chair, starts giving homeless people haircuts. And so, and then this guy, Kurt Weitzman, who's a comedian himself, and was a friend of Robin's, and is also a documentary filmmaker, decides to shoot a film called Be Robin. And he starts shooting right then and there. The film has subsequently been released and plays at festivals and whatnot. Beautiful movie. And so all of a sudden we start doing this. We did 4 or 5 more outdoor venues. We did, events at the Fillmore and at the Boom Boom Room and the Eagle, the Oasis, all these other big venues. Started raising a ton of money. And I stuck with that for a while, even after Margaret had to leave town because her career kind of took off again. And she gave me all of her blessings, said, I'll promote it in any way I can. And then about a year after that, a friend of mine, Bronica DiCarlo, wrote something on Facebook, said that a friend of hers was giving out these Mylar emergency blankets in Boston because it was so damn cold, right? These little things. And she said she was trying to raise some money for them. I said, well, I'll just buy 1,000 of them. And I got on Amazon and bought them. And I said, I'll give you half, and then I'll take half and bring them to my gigs and see what happens. So at that point, I was still asking for money, but I just said, look, instead of just blowing past this poor guy on the street, with his cat or dog or whatever, and ignore him, say, look, I know I don't have any money to give you, but this thing could keep you warm. Can I take it? So I would bring hundreds of them to gigs and pass them out to the audience. I said, look, this is the weirdest trade rock and roll merchandise you're ever going to get, but this is what I want you to do with it. And they would do it. And then I met this young girl on the street singing songs about her family and playing ukulele. And I said, you're amazing. What's your story? She said, well, I was homeless. I started making money as a musician, and now my boyfriend and I live around the corner, and we help other people on the streets. We give out stuff. We give them bicycles that we fix so they can get around. I said, what else should I give people aside from this? He said, well, they need socks. That'd be huge. Condoms would be great. Feminine hygiene supplies. So I started buying more stuff, and I in a bunch of Ziploc bags, and then I started throwing all these things in Ziploc bags and then bringing them to gigs, right? And then I found a woman who had also had a very difficult life, who had a graphics background, and she said she could make a folder for me. I said, great. We'll print it on waterproof paper. It'll list all the places to get, food and clothing, hygiene services, meal services, mental health services, family counseling, whatever. We'll print that up. She developed the logo, or one of the logos, and then we stick that in the bag, and we'd start bringing those to gigs. And we've given out about 7,000 or 8,000 of them over the last however many 4 years or 5 years or so. We are now part of St. Vincent de Paul Society of San Francisco, which is a big 501, a huge international organization.
Yep.
They have the nonprofit status, so we didn't have to get that ourselves. And then as a part of it, my producer, who's producing my album, which will be released this summer, decided to do a compilation, which I'll hold back here, with great cover art by a guy named Nemo. And we got all these amazing artists, Stone Foxes, Tim Bloom from the band Mother Hips, Fantastic Negrito, who just won his 3rd Grammy Award this past year. Scott Mickelson, who has a track. I have a track on it. Goodnight, Texas. John Craigie, Brothers Comatose, King Dream, Cambrio, Tobias the Owl, Marty O'Reilly, Rainbow Girls, Whisker Man. So they all came to our studios, donated a track. We recorded it, mixed it, mastered it, sent it to our vinyl pressing service. We released it as a double LP, had a concert at the Independent. All the money from the album sales, concert tickets went to support the charity. So
Ken,
name of
the album.
The name of the album is called it's Blanket the Homeless. It's actually, if you go to our website, blanketthehomeless.org, it's available there. If you want vinyl, it's $45. You get the double record set plus the MP3 download. If you just want the download, I think it's like 12 or 15 bucks. But the album's beautiful. It's just a beautiful cover, and all the money goes directly to the charity. It's just dumped right into the coffers.
What a wonderful, wonderful thing that you are doing. That's absolutely amazing. And I love hearing stories like that. And I'm grateful that you're able to share that with us so that we can send that out to our audience as well. And I hope that just a little small piece that can contribute to what you're doing. I hope that can.
I'm going to add to that and just let people know that giving is more contagious than COVID could ever be.
That's a really, really great statement.
Okay. I give back all the time. Kim and I actually support a bunch of charities across the U.S. that help with battered women and women escaping abusive relationships.
Oh, that's huge.
So, we're trying to bridge the gap between the centers that help these women so that they become a stronger network in helping women relocate and get completely away from whatever they were in before so that they can start over with their self-esteem again and be strong. And so we work really hard toward that goal in our off time. Now, Ken, we have a format over here at Cruising into a Better Financial Future. Yeah. We look at what our people are an expert in. And unfortunately, I had too much to choose from when it comes to you. But I wanted to narrow it down to your main profession, Magnet Productions. And so we have the top 5 questions Kim and I get asked about the things you do. And we're going to throw those out there and have you give us a medium to short answer, and then Kim and I will chime in with what we know about it. You correct us if we're wrong. Believe me, we do not take offense. But all that being said, we just want our viewers to get some value in the understanding of marketing via trade show and marketing via public outward facing marketing, which is something that you are more than familiar with. Yeah. And so I'm going to let Kim throw the first question out, and you're going to get to go first with an answer to it.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. And I get asked this quite a bit when we talk about people starting their business and promoting their business. And one of the biggest concerns that they have is that they think spokespeople are expensive. Is that really the case, Ken?
Well, it depends on what they mean by spokespeople. I mean, like I did a show for a client and they had Magic Johnson sort of like talking about the company. And, he's fine. He did a great job. But essentially they say, all right, here's 8 or 10 talking points. And then he just reads them off the screen. And because he's Magic, it's got some, some sort of credibility. I don't know if that's it, but just association. People go like, whoa, cool. They don't necessarily feel a connection. to what he's saying because he's not particularly connected to it. It's not his job. His job is to just be there in name and presence. So, the way we relate to the notion of a spokesperson, it really is emphasis on the spoke part, the ability to communicate. It's the reason that we don't have people like at trade shows that will get up there that have that warm stentorian voice. It sounds like an FM DJ. I'd like to welcome you. We're talking here about solutions. That's right, solutions, because a solution is only as good as the solution is good enough to be the solution. If it's not a solution, then it's not a solution. People will sit there and go, I think I get what he's talking about. One of the things that we feel is the most important thing you can do when you're a spokesperson is generate empathy, like communicate to the audience in a way that makes them understand that you are sensitive to what they need. That's why we always sort of spin the narrative. It's not, we offer these features, these benefits for our clients, these features, these benefits, blah, blah, blah. It's, tell me if this is true. How many people here have ever missed their kid's soccer game because they were too busy trying to fix an IT problem? How many people were late for a date with their wife, their anniversary, because of this? Now, all of a sudden, you've got people sitting there going, oh man, yeah. And their emotions are engaged. And you go like, I don't care what this technology can do. It's not important. But if it could solve that problem, if no matter what it does, it solves that problem, then that's all you care about. And that's kind of how I reframe my clients. So for a spokesperson, for somebody to say they want to get, some celebrity, that's fine. They're going to spend $100,000 for that. That's what they spend for Magic, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood. 75 if they don't have much going on that weekend, maybe 150 if they're really famous. That may pull people into the room just to see what they have to say, but the actual communication of the message, that's not necessarily going to be their strongest suit, their strong suit. My feeling is, or our feeling is, to take that money and say, well, let's get somebody who's a professional speaker who understands how to break the screen, break the fourth wall. That could be 10,000, it could be 5,000, it could be 15,000, depends on the venue, depends on what type of event it is, and then have other things that are designed to pull people in, as opposed to just, some very high profile person. To me, I've always felt that that's money ill spent. I'm happy that those guys can make money, but I don't think Magic would be in serious trouble if he didn't get that gig. Just a guess.
Excellent feedback. And if I could just add, you're absolutely right. It needs to be somebody that is relatable. That, I think, is the key. Doesn't have to me, I would say, well, I'm nothing like Magic. That's not going to resonate with me. But another middle-aged mom of kids going through the same thing I'm going through, that person I'm probably going to listen to because they can resonate with what I'm going through right now. So you're absolutely right. It needs to be relatable. And right now, because we are not in person, you don't necessarily have to have that real expensive spokesperson. Influencers right now are the latest and greatest. And how many followers do they have on Instagram? And if you can get somebody that has 1 million followers on Instagram, you're not going to have to pay that $100,000, but they're going to get your message out to 100 or 1 million people.
Right. So, and the other thing too, it's apropos what you just said about like who you are and whether your demographic is right for the audience. Some of the most successful things we do are where myself or one of the people in my team will host a meeting, and they will bring up people that are closer to the demographic of the audience. We have somebody right now that's had this experience and blah, blah, blah. And because that person is a professional speaker and facilitator, they can sort of ask, like you are with me, they could ask questions. They could literally physically be in the audience, and acting as an intermediary to raise questions that the speaker addresses, and then put some kind of a spin on it and bring it back to the company's message.
Exactly.
This is why this technology can solve that problem, because she really cares about this. How many people feel the same way? And we're constantly
always get your audience involved, because this keeps them on their toes.
Exactly right. Break the wall. Constantly break that wall. Nobody wants to see some really clean, perfectly polished presentation if it doesn't engage your heart.
No, definitely not. In fact, Jonathan, here's my 2 cents. I always throw in 2 cents to one of the answers, so I'll throw it in here. there's only one type of person, one type of actor, one type of person out there that won't be a good spokesperson. And I know Ken's not only going to agree with me, I'll wait till he swallows so he doesn't spit out whatever he's drinking there. And that would be a mime. So don't hire a mime to be your spokesperson. I know Ken's feeling on mimes. Yes, I'm stuck in this horrible. Anyway, the fact is I don't want to run out and get a quote from Nationwide more simply because Brad Paisley and Peyton Manning are talking about it on TV. I want to go out to Nationwide because I want to compare them to my other policy. And you want someone who can get that across. You want someone who tells and doesn't sell as a spokesperson. You don't want a salesman to be your spokesperson either, because people these days are educated. They can tell when they're being sold as opposed to being told. And the best salespeople and the best influencers out there today, they tell you, they don't sell you, because they want you to make up your mind in favor of what they're telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, it's much more personal than a sale could ever be. And that's my 2 cents.
No, that's more than 2 cents. That's a lot. In fact, I took a sales training seminar with Zig Ziglar a billion years ago.
I love Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, when I was selling cars back in the late 70s, right after I graduated college. And, you know, one of the things he talks about is, you know, he said, look, no one ever wants to be sold a car. They want to buy a car. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand that it's got to be their decision, that they have to be actively engaged in the process, that it's, you know, and how do you make somebody want to buy something? By establishing need and desire and explaining what this thing is going to accomplish, aside from just providing you 4 wheels, you know, and a place to sit, you know. So right. It's, yeah, you're right.
Okay, so this is funny because we've wandered into question 2 by mistake, which is good. This led right into a question from Kathy out in Texas. And she wants to know, is there more that she can do personally that would help get her business recognized?
You know, this is a thing that I wrestle with all the time. And, you know, because of my particular demographic, you know, I would think, you know, people are always telling me, well, you've got to get on this platform and you got to get on that platform and you have to try this one and this social media thing. And just by virtue of the fact that, you know, that I spend a lot of late nights learning about things, I've actually gotten to the point where I'm more comfortable with a lot of these things than some people in their 20s and 30s, you know. So I'll occasionally say something and go, wow, what's that? You know, and this, like back in the day when Twitter first started, mm-hmm. I created a character on Twitter called The Expert. And this was way back at the beginning, and it went viral. I mean, I had hundreds of thousands of followers for a while, videos, and I was producing these 30-second bubble videos, they were called. Somebody developed a plugin for Twitter that Twitter didn't approve of. And I started doing these videos, and they were all comedy. They were all snarky, some political stuff, but whatever. It created this iconographic character. And then all of a sudden people would say, hey, can I get that Expert? It was like a heavy duty New York accent, all black and white, dark glasses. I ended up getting work for that guy to do sort of promotional stuff for companies. So I think the early days of my business, I had great success with huge email campaigns. We were getting lists of people that were going to be at trade shows. We're sending out thousands a month. About 5,000 a month. But after a while, the can't spam laws and whatnot made it possible. Essentially, that was no longer valuable. People were like just rejecting virtually all the emails. So then it was all about inbound. So it was about SEO and trying to do something on your site that got people to recognize you. I do recommend that. I do recommend finding companies that offer SEO services that actually charge you based on how well they perform, as opposed to paying $3,000, $4,000 a month and saying, yeah, we're going to get you on page 1. I had for years a company that did that for me. They said, if we get you on page 5, you pay this much a month. If it goes to page 3, it's this much. If you get you in the top 1, 2, or 3 position, it's this much. You know, using Google Analytics, figuring out what it is that people in your industry are looking for. If you're a diamond merchant, you're not going to be able to get a lot of SEO for the word diamond because the competition is amazing. Mm-hmm. But if you specify what your market is, figure out how many terms around that using Google Analytics are actually called up, then get some social media around those particular terms. And sometimes it's about writing blogs and putting them in your website, you know, like really detailed blogs, and not just using the word over and over and over again, but putting it in your good. That way, the Google
Embedding it. Yep.
algorithms will find it in your blog somewhere, which will get them back to page one. So there's a lot of that piece of it. Social media, you know, I think it's important to erase the distinction between who you are as a person and who you are as a business owner.
Absolutely.
I get
Yes.
so much work by virtue of the fact that I released a song and I posted on social media, because a lot of my clients are, you know, following me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, are in Clubhouse with me, are on Instagram with me. Occasionally I have to be careful about some of the weirder kind of, you know, off color stuff that I position, but I don't honestly censor myself very much politically. You know, my son sometimes gives me crap about that. He goes, Dad, you're going to alienate people. I'm like, well, if they can't respect the fact that I have an opinion, that I'm going to be strong coming in on something, then maybe we're not the right people to work together. I mean, you have to feel like I like who I am. I want to billboard that. And part of who I am is Blanket the Homeless. Part of who I am is Magnet Productions, is writing comedy routines for other comedians. Part of it is being a guitarist. Part of it is just putting people together, doing what you guys do, which is saying networking. You know, it's like, oh my God, I have nothing to gain here except I want to put you two together because the world's going to benefit from the two of you being, you know, in close concert with each other. So I think all of it, I mean, social media, email campaigns, you know, learn how to write emails so it doesn't sound like marketing. I'm serious. I mean,
Yes.
you know, if you,
Yes.
I've offered this to people. I'll say, well, send me your last marketing pitch. And I read it and I would never open that. Because it's you know, there are just certain words that are just, everything is a solution. We offer you value-added solutions. Yeah, I went to like, if I go to Costco and I want a vacuum cleaner, they sell me a vacuum cleaner. They don't sell me a sucking solution.
All right. So yeah, exactly. I'm going to chime in real quick here. I hate when I see the word solutions because it's overused. And whenever I see it now, I call up whoever's marketing using that word and I say, well, what's the problem? And they're like, excuse me? I'm like, you said you had solutions. I want to know to what? You know, I mean, stop using solutions without identifying the problem. If you're going to identify the problem, then maybe you can insert the word solution into your second or third line, but stop opening first lines with solutions. I'm not looking for solutions. I'm looking for a glass of water, or I'm looking for a tire from my bicycle, or I'm not looking for a solution. I'm looking for a specific. Most people are.
Yeah, we all are. We all are. We all want our dreams. We all want our dreams come to reality. We all want our problem solved.
That being said, I'm going to give my advice, and I'll let Kim have the last word because I know she has something to say on this question. There's no doubt in my mind. She comes from the background that this woman, Kathy, is talking about. But Kathy, just like when I'm going to use the Ken Newman style of explaining this, you're going to like this. It connects and builds to the crescendo here. Let's say you were single and looking to meet someone. If you sit inside your office, your house, and you type away on your computer and type away on your phone, odds are you're not going to meet anyone worthwhile. If you want to meet someone, go outside and talk to people. If you want to expand your business, it's exactly the same formula. If you want to be better recognized, you get your business out there. In every county in America, there is a chamber of commerce. Go find it. Find out when they have their meeting events. Every one of them does it at least once a month. Some do it every week, but every one of them does meeting events where they invite local small business owners to come together, and they call it a business card handout. And usually they'll even provide some bagels and cream cheese or coffee or some sort of breakfast. And Ken knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Bagels. You had me at bagels.
Yes, I know. Remember, I come from Brooklyn. I grew up on bagels. But the point is you're not going to get noticed more because of an ad or a marketing campaign. You're going to get noticed more because you're around. Ken got noticed by me because he was on this networking event. I got noticed by Kim because she was a customer of somebody that I network with. That's how Kim and I came together. We've talked about it before. You get out there, and all of a sudden, as long as you have any personality at all, and even if you have no personality, you'll be recognized as the person with no personality. And believe it or not, that can make you stick out. Think about this, though. That could make you stick out more than the people who are out there doing what Ken and I do and telling jokes and performing a magic trick to get noticed. You're the one that never says a word, and everyone's going to be like, hey, what does that woman who sits in the corner and never says a word do? You're going to pique their curiosity by doing nothing. Right. But you've got to be out there. If you're not out there, there's nothing you can do personally that's going to help get your business recognized.
Great.
And
That's
that's my
great.
answer to the question.
That's
Go ahead,
good.
Kim. It's all yours. Run with it.
You're absolutely right, both of you. You have to get out there. And I was recently asked, how do you get yourself recognized if there's no social media? Because that's how everybody is marketing themselves right now, through social media. And what if
Right.
we didn't have that? What would you do? And
Yeah.
you have to get yourself out there. You have to knock on doors. You have to make phone calls. You have to get involved with chambers, get involved with networking groups. So
Yep.
there are
Associations, all of it.
definitely,
Yeah.
yep, there are definitely other ways to get yourself recognized rather than just
Right.
sitting behind a desk and doing busy work, because the business isn't going to come to you unless they know that you're out there. And Ken, you gave excellent educational topic on SEO, because most people don't know what SEO does. So thank you for including
Oh,
that.
you're very welcome. There's
That
one other thing too I wanted to mention. I forgot, and I meant to do this, and
Sure.
it came up. You know how when you buy a house, you have a relationship with a realtor, or you go to a garage, you have a relationship with a mechanic. At the end of the year, they send you a calendar, right?
Mhm.
And that calendar lives on your refrigerator, and it's a valuable thing. You use it all the time, and there's their name and their phone number, for when something goes south. What you want, a house or something, your plumbing breaks, or somebody breaks your car window, or whatever. So right after the pandemic hit, when I was still reeling and trying to figure out what to do, I wanted to reach out to my clients, but I didn't want to reach out and try to sell them my services doing online media and broadcast.
Mhm.
So instead, I just offered them help. I said, look, my girlfriend's a chef. She put together a list of things that you should keep in your cupboards. Forget the toilet paper, get beans, get this and this and this and this and this. And I made a list.
Well, if you're going to get beans, you got to have toilet paper.
Exactly right. Well said. So I put together a list and I sent it to all my clients. I said, look, I know we're all going through hell. Here's something that my girlfriend put together. Hopefully it gives you some help. And I would keep doing that. I would send them. I said, this is something funny that I read. We're going to get through this. There wasn't even a scintilla of sales pitch in it. I never even, I didn't say, call us when things get, none of it, nothing like that at all. It was just, I did that for 2 months. I said, I'm not going to try to sell anything. I'm just going to help people deal with what we're all dealing with, try to create this kind of sense of community, built on chaos and heartache. And it was just a really, I would get these really sweet emails periodically saying, oh my God, we just went shopping and we took the list with us and we bought all that stuff and it's now in the cabinet. Thank you so much. Thank your girlfriend. And then when the time was right, get back to the sales, to trying to sell your services. But my recommendation is to do that all the time. Occasionally, just reach out to all of you people, say, hey, I came across a resource I think you're going to really love. This is great.
Mhm.
My realtor used to do this. The top 10, she had plumbers that she recommended, electricians, house cleaning services, and she would send this to her clients. That is the greatest sales tool you've got, a marketing
Yep.
tool, rather, you've got.
Right.
Anyway,
She was
Yep,
a
you're
living,
right.
breathing Angie's List.
yeah,
Right.
exactly right.
And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just want to be at the forefront of your audience, not selling them, just being memorable. So when
Yeah.
they do need you, they know exactly how to find you. So
Good point.
that's
That's
the
it.
key.
I mean, just
Good.
think about it. It was literally school that brought together two of the greatest minds ever, Jobs and Wozniak.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Had they not
Yep.
been in school at the same time or in the
Oh,
same
sure.
school at the same time, there
Right.
might not be an Apple.
Yep.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
I mean, you got to be out there. You're forced out there till the age of 18, but after that, it's up to you to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
On that note, Kim, question number 3.
So another question that both Adam and I get asked is, where can I find personalities that will work with a small company to help get us recognized?
Well, gosh, that sounds like one of those kind of softballs that somebody sort of gets like, oh gee, I don't know. Let me think. What the hell's the name of that company? It's like a metal thing. It attracts other metal things. Yeah. Well, this is kind of right in the sweet spot for what it is that we do. I mean, companies will say,
This wasn't set up, by the way. We
I know, I
actually do
appreciate
get
that.
that question.
No, but very often what people will do is they will go to agencies and they say, I'm looking for a spokesperson, or I'm looking for a host, or I'm looking for a narrator, or they'll go to a speakers bureau and they say, we're looking for speakers. What you want to do is look for, presenters, trade show presenters, corporate speakers. It depends on what you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for somebody who's going to deliver a presentation on the value of SEO, for example, we were talking about, or certain specific type of sales training presentation, and maybe they've already got kind of something built that they can deliver with, visual support, visual media and role play exercises and whatnot. That's what you're going to look for. If you're looking for somebody to act as a spokesperson for your company product at a trade show, that's exactly what we do. And what we try to tell our clients is, we're not going to tell you that you are going to do a magic show at your trade show booth to get people to come in. We're not going to tell you that you're going to have a guy on a unicycle or a guy doing a game show or any of those things. What we will do is we will say, all right, we have a pre-show questionnaire that says, all right, give me one paragraph, short paragraph. What's your industry? What do you do? Who's your market? What are three big pain points that your clients have? The things that really kind of keep them up at night. Great. What 3 solutions do you have that address each of those pain points? Great. Just 3, not 5, not 7. 3. Great. What differentiates those from other people that are in the same space? Great. We get that answer. Now, in 45 seconds or less, write out a paragraph. If you had to explain what you do to a child, explain it to that child in a way that shows that you're engaged and emotional about it and you care about it. Great. What was your experience at the last show? What's your goals for this show? You want like tons of bodies in the booth and massive amounts of leads, or do you want a lot of people in the booth and a small number of targeted qualified leads? And once we have that, then we'll say, okay, here's what I would suggest for you. And they may say, yeah, my CEO hates magic. I'm like, okay, we don't do that. Let's just find another way to engage the audience. So everything is bespoke. I mean, it's really got to be driven entirely by what the customer, what their sensibilities are, what type of entertainment they want, what the particular trade show. Certain industries relate to certain types of entertainment more so than other, or infotainment more than others. And people sometimes say, like, our brand is kind of serious, so I think we have to kind of keep a serious tone. But even if they do, we tell them, listen, this is going to be serious, but it's not going to be like heart attack serious. It's going to be engaging. It's going to be personable. It'll be a speaker who knows how to engage the audience. There'll be some kind of fun, but the fun will be built into the presentation as opposed to an overlay because of like some, with magic or juggling or something like that. So that's kind of the way to do it, is just, and don't be afraid. Make believe you're casting a film, and don't be afraid to audition people. Don't be afraid to say, look, we'd like to see a demo reel, or better yet, here's a little information about who we are. Could you put together a 30-second sample of how you might tell me the story? And make them do it for you on Zoom. I mean, people are always reluctant to do that. I'm like, no, make us jump through hoops. We're happy to jump through hoops.
Yes.
If they're not happy to jump through hoops, then don't hire.
If you're good at what you do, you have confidence in the product you'll present. So
Yeah.
of course.
And as the business
demand
owner, you need to vet out who you are going to work with and who you aren't going to work with. And if somebody tells me, well, you know what, without you signing a contract, I'm not willing to give you a demo, well, then that's not somebody that I want to do business with,
You're
because I have to
absolutely
feel
right.
comfortable
Yep.
with them engaging my customers or my leads.
Yeah, I mean, the best, compliment I ever get is when a client comes back after 7 years and says, okay, we've done magic, we've done juggling, we've done a game show. What else you got? And I'm like, oh, cool. Now I'm being pushed to come up with some new idea. So we come up with a whole different concept for a game show. And they say, what do you think of that? Oh my God, we never even considered that. That's so cool. And we've done, clients for 10, 15 years. So
that's awesome.
Yep. I can relate. I get about an hour of downtime a week if I'm lucky. And I spend that hour. Yeah, I like to play some games though. I like, so I belong to this gaming site that's not for money. It's all for play money. And there's slots and there's card games and things like that. But the most fun I have is in their what they call party room. So they give away charms that boost your winnings, and you can earn charms at these party rooms. And people would just, click on join the party to get the charms and leave, and that would be it. And I found that to be a little dry and a little boring. You're calling it a party room. There should be a party, or at least some sort of theme. And on this site, I ended up getting a lifetime membership for free because I created the themed party room. And one of the things I did, now you actually have to buy or earn these charms that you give away.
Wow, cool.
So what I did is I created a charm auction. And I'm going to relate this to the question at the end, I promise. Okay.
No, that's good. This is fascinating.
Okay, so just watch this though. I created a charm auction. So what I do is I get everybody into this room, and the thing starts, and the meter's up there. We're supposed to get to 1,000 charms given away back and forth. And I just ask the question, let's say one of the charms is a caviar charm. And I'm like, who here will bid the most caviar charms to give away to the rest of the group? And I've got people saying, I'll give away 10, I'll give away 12, I'll give away 15. And I wait about 30 seconds and I pick the highest bid and I say, go ahead and give away 15. And I count them while they're giving them away.
Uh-huh.
And people are literally just giving away their charms, but they feel included. And this is where I'm getting to the question. They feel included.
Yeah.
That feeling of inclusion makes them want to do it again and again and again. Even though they're spending their hard-earned charms, they're having fun doing it. And they remember that party more than they remember the fact that all their charms are gone.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, I want to relate this back to the actual question, which was, this was the one from Brian, right? In Maine?
Or Stella?
This is, yes.
Where can you find personalities? That was the actual question. Forget about finding personalities. Start by recognizing personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't do trade shows. I do speeches. I am a paid speaker. I've spoken to audiences as large as 3,000, as small as 2.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started out as a stand-up comedian, except when I was tired and was a sit-down comedian, I had audiences of 2. And it's fine because it's practice, no matter how big your audience is. But recognize the personality that fits what you do. Like that questionnaire that Ken gives out to people, you know, tell it to me like I'm 10. Now tell it to me like I'm 20. Now tell it to me like I'm 50.
Yeah.
You get 3 different explanations of what you do.
Exactly right.
And it tends to be that the one for the 10-year-old is the one everybody can relate to most of the time.
Yep.
Most of the time.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's the middle one, but usually when you explain things to someone like they're 10 years old, everybody can understand that explanation, and it has more feeling in it, because when you're talking to a 10-year-old, you tend to have more inflection, more tone. And like Ken said, you want to interview people. You want to make sure it's a good fit.
Yep.
You know, if I was selling hair care products, that would be a bad fit. I don't have any hair. So, you know, it just would be a bad fit. So, you know, where can you find personalities? Everywhere, literally everywhere. But the most important thing, Ken's business is an amazing company, and I've heard nothing but good things from everyone who's ever used them for their trade shows and everything else. But the fact is, if you have multiple employees in your employ, interview them first. They have a stake in the game, number one.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And they know more about the product than anyone you'll hire from outside.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have an expert, and you'd be shocked how many people in a 10-man office do open karaoke twice a week and go to open mics at comedy clubs twice a week, or are side magicians like I am. I'm not a pro like Ken is. I'm a side magician, but I know my stuff. You know, I'm friends with Penn Jillette. I know a little bit about magic. But still, the fact of the matter is, your resources may be right in front of you. You need to learn to recognize them.
Right.
That's a really, really great point. And frankly, you know, some of our most successful shows have come when a company has said, look, we've got this guy at the company and he's really, really good, but he's not gonna, you know, he's great at talking about the product, and he really knows the product, and he's really, you know, charming on stage, but we need somebody to help sort of get the crowd so that he actually doesn't perform for an empty theater. And so we'll have our people do like a 5-minute front end or 3-minute front end, where we just sort of talk about the, you know, the bigger talking points. And then we have a little transition. He said, well, now we're going to do a deeper dive into this particular product. I'd like to bring up my, you know, my friend and an expert and blah, blah. And suddenly this person that just thought they were going to get up in front of 2 people is getting a rock star introduction. They're talking to 80, 100 people. And, you know, and then we will field a couple of 3 questions, or we'll have scripted a couple of questions. Like often I'll tell somebody doing a 10-minute presentation, I said, I'll tell you what, write it up for me as 4 2.5-minute presentations, and give me the question that your 2.5-minute piece would be the answer to. That way we you know, we're constantly back and forth with the audience, and we're checking in with them. So the person doesn't just sit down at the trade show and go like, all right, I'm in for 10 minutes, go. You know, they feel like there's it's
pressure,
like a talk show.
Yeah,
it's structured like a talk show.
That's an excellent option for a company to raise the morale of the employees as well. Get them involved.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
My favorite advertising that I've done that's on par with what you do was before I went to work for Verizon, I worked for Dial America Marketing, which is where we sold magazines to benefit charities like Special
Sure, sure, yeah,
Olympics.
yeah.
Okay, so we were out in Queens, New York, and we went over to one of the parks. I think it was Juniper Valley Park. It's a
Mhm.
rather large park, and we set it up like a courtroom.
Wow,
We had a guy
cool.
that was by far the best salesman in our group,
Uh-huh.
but he was shy as could be about speaking to an audience.
Mhm.
And so we had him face me, and I was dressed like a judge, and he's at the podium in front of the judge. Okay. He doesn't see the 270 people behind him, so they're not there. He's
Right.
talking directly to me, and he knows me, so it's easy to talk.
Yeah.
So here I am about to make him a star without his fear of the audience behind him because he doesn't know they're there. I'm like, just talk to me. So I'm like, you are being questioned about selling magazines way too cheap to people, giving them subscriptions that are just way too inexpensive. How do you plead? He'd be like, not guilty. The reason that we're able to discount him is, and he just go right into the pitch.
Right into it.
Yep, right into, and he
Wow,
comes
what a
across
cool
so well.
idea.
So yeah, it's all about that inventive mind. And
Yeah.
I'll say this about Ken himself: he has one of the most inventive minds I know right now. I've known a lot in my day. He has a very he's not as fast as Robin, but
No,
his mind is definitely incredibly creative. I had the honor of listening to one of the songs he wrote about 2 weeks ago when I was in his Clubhouse room, and he played it for all of us. By the way, I grew up on folk music, so some of the
sweet.
stuff you write is just amazing to me.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
So that being said, let's move on to the fourth question, because the fourth question, we've just
Right.
led into it again without even
Think so.
trying.
We
This one,
did.
this one
Go
comes from
ahead.
Stella out in Wyoming. And she wants to know, is it possible to attend a trade show and not be bored to tears?
Wow, God, I don't know who these people are, but I want to have dinner with every single one of them. First of all,
No, wait, I got to answer this first. Stella, yes, but you got to leave Wyoming. Okay. That being
so
said, I'll let Ken run with it.
first of all, Stella is my mother's name. So I immediately, that was my first thought was just like, oh my God, they called my mom. And of course her question would be, when are you coming home? I haven't seen you for like 14 months already. Come on, what's going on? So how do you not bore people? Well, you do stuff. For us, what we try to do is we take everything, no matter what we're talking about, we try to shift the context. We don't necessarily talk about it in its absolute sense. So when I talk about infotainment, for example, Adam, this $20 bill that represents you, Adam. Okay. Now, if they made $1 million bill, I would have that. But unfortunately, this is all I got on me.
I'll accept the 20.
Exactly. But it represents something of value. And there's no question in my mind that Adam brings real value to the game. This 20 represents Kim. She brings value as well. The two of them obviously have a really good professional relationship. Now, if I took these two $20 bills and I put them together, I would have how much? And it's all I got in my hand right now is $40, right? That's it. But if you think of them metaphorically, think of them representing these two wonderful creatures right here, then I believe you end up with something greater than the sum of the parts.
Oh my God, I love it.
That's much more my speed.
Right?
Yes, yes.
Now, of course, is that a real $100 bill? Absolutely. It's got the little thing. But really what it is just a way of thinking that when you put the right elements together, and that could be any relationship, a husband and his wife, a father and his daughter, a father and his son, a company that is offering a solution to you that needs that solution. They need you because you're going to keep them in business. You need them because they're going to improve the quality of your life. So really all it is those two things coming together. So that's how you don't bore people.
That's how you answer a question. That's what that is.
Yes, yes.
So the answer,
it could be a song. It could be it doesn't even have to be anything as overtly like mystical and magical as that. Why do people get bored? People get bored because they're not at all involved in the process. If you think that when you're doing a presentation that that's the job to disseminate this information, you're only doing half the job.
Right.
The primary part of the job is to pull them
1000%.
into the game.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
To pull them in.
Being a great speaker is like being a great improvisationalist. Read your audience, flow with them, get to know them, and keep their interest.
Right.
A good speaker can always throw a joke in and sometimes they're the worst jokes in the world. For instance, both Ken and I are well-schooled in dad jokes, as they call them.
Bad jokes. I got just a library of them.
You know, for instance, I spent a year child-proofing my home and they still get in. You know, that's an example.
That's actually better than your average dad joke. That's pretty damn good.
or here's one for you that I've been throwing out a lot lately. What do you call a pig from dinosaur times?
What?
Jurassic Pork.
Oh God! Now you're into dad category.
That's the dad category.
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah. But I also think you have to be genuine. Your passion has to be seen. If you're just there and you don't believe in what you're doing, it's going to show. So you have to be passionate about it too, which Ken, you are absolutely passionate about what you do.
I still enjoy it. That's the thing. I mean,
and you can tell.
I'm not bored with it. You know, it's kind of it's really fun to figure out, how do you get at people? You know, how do you get people will sit down at a trade show, go like they're already predisposed to be as bored as possible and disinterested. They're sitting there like, okay, what? And you look at them and you go like, how do I? You said being a good lover. It's the same thing. I mean, without getting real specific, you know, the good lovers don't say, I got this. I know exactly what I'm doing. You just stay, you know, hold my beer. That's not the way to do it, right? It's all about this. It's all about communication, eye contact.
Yep.
That is a great comparison. All right, Kim, let's get the last question out because I want to get to that wrap up part where we're going to have a little bit more fun.
And this question
this has been so difficult.
This question is near and dear to my heart, and we talk about this all the time. Adam, and I know you have this conversation with your clients as well. Why is giving back so important to my business's future?
Because it's important to the world, and we are part of the world. You know, I've been studying Buddhism for the last year. I got into it on April 1st because Peter Coyote is a good friend of mine, and he's a Zen priest. We worked together doing theater when I first moved to San Francisco. You know, and I'm just going to use this one little thing that he says because it sticks with me, and I think about it all the time, particularly when I'm facing whether it's a work tragedy or personal crisis or whatever. You're standing on a precipice and you're looking at the ocean, and the ocean forms waves. It's a particularly turbulent day, right? And the waves are forming, and each one of those waves represents something. It's a person you love, it's a person you hate, it's a building, it's a sentient being, it's a crisis in your life, it's something that happens. And you watch it from the distance, and you watch it come up into its full form of itself, and then it dissipates. So each one of those things is individual, but not for a moment do they stop being the ocean. And that's it.
All part
We
of
are
something
all
greater.
part of something else. And the idea of giving back for me has been giving to myself. I used to say, you know, that you know, people who are philanthropic, I mean, how they're so altruistic, they just give. And they said, no, they're selfish. You just don't understand what their motivation is. We're all, if giving away and making other people happy and enriching their lives, possibly saving their lives, fills you with joy, then great. You're doing it for that reason, but you're doing it to satisfy something inside of you. So I think what we need to figure out is, how do we allow ourselves to feel joy in giving everything away, or not everything, but giving something away? What I've gotten as a musician in terms of who I've gotten to work with, albums that have been produced, opportunities that have fallen in my lap, started in earnest when I started giving it away. Everything came to me. There's no way in the world I could have orchestrated what's happened to me by design. I couldn't have said, I know how to become a successful magician, a musician, or whatever. I'm going to come up with some charity or something and just start doing it, and people will think it's really cool. No, my feeling is, if you lead with your heart, truly lead with your heart, that sometimes the universe conspires to help you. So
I agree with you 2000%, infinity and beyond. You are so right. And when
That's our first Toy Story quote. I love it.
When I consult with people, that's exactly what I tell them. When you're in our business, you're in it to help other people. And I am here because I'm passionate about helping other people succeed in all areas of their life. And I have so many resources that I can put them in touch with to help them accomplish what they need to accomplish. But when you put helping people at the forefront, everything else seems to come into play and falls exactly where it's supposed to be on the back end. So you always have to lead with helping others.
Yeah, it's the greatest magic act in the world. I mean, it's just, how did that happen to you? Well, I gave all this money away. But
All right, I'm going
did
to
you
start
think
my
it was-
answer with this.
Go ahead.
Ken, namaste.
Let's see.
I have studied Buddhism. I'm a universalist minister. So
Cool.
I've studied a lot about a lot of different religions because I
Sure.
don't believe any one of them by itself is correct. And that's just me personally. And I don't
Yeah.
discuss religion and politics on this channel very often. We try to avoid them for obvious reasons. But the fact of the matter is there's something about Zen and something about karma that has proven itself a million times right in front of everybody's eyes.
Yeah.
And the fact is, whether it's for selfish reasons, giving because you need to feel that joy because other parts of your life don't give it to you, or whether you're giving because someone you know has faced the problem that you're giving to. Like I said, Kim and I help battered women. My sister and my mother both were in abusive relationships in their lifetime. And so, you know, they weren't battered too badly, because if they were, then the gentleman who did it would likely be battered pretty badly as well. But that's neither here nor there. The point is they were both in abusive relationships and had to escape them one way or the other. So, you know, for me, giving back in that form is simply because there's a hole there that I just want to keep filling, and I don't want anyone to go through what they went through. So there's lots of reasons. But the fact is that karma is real, whether you believe in it in the spiritual sense or non-spiritual sense. So I'm just going to go with the non-spiritual part of karma. Every religion has a version of it, which is given thou shalt receive, which is the golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. This is all a form of karma. And no matter which Bible or holy book you may study, whether it's the Quran, whether it's the Torah, whether it's the Holy Bible, whether it's Zen Buddhism, whether it's Taoism, they all have a very similar phrase somewhere in their religion. They all base a lot on the fact that the more you give, the more you will receive. And so there's my answer to that. Giving is important because the more you give, the more you receive. It's that simple.
Yep, absolutely.
100%.
Yep.
Now, let's have a little fun because we're nearing the end. And Ken, we've gone over a little, but you're worth going over the limit for. So
I got nothing scheduled, so I'm happy to do it. I know you had said you wanted to talk about, there was some other tax credit thing or something, but I guess we don't have to go there.
Well, no, we can talk about that actually. Let's bring that up really quick because that was
Sure.
on there.
Yeah.
You know, one of the specials I'm working on, and it's been delayed a little bit because I'm waiting to hear whether or not a couple of people that I've invited will be on it, is I'm doing a special on universal basic income, which I believe not only is the solution to karma in the United States because we live in a crony capitalist society, but I think it would fix the broken capitalism America currently practices. Giving people enough just to house and feed and clothe themselves, not more than that, roughly between $1,500 and $2,000 a month to be used as needed to every single American citizen over the age of 18 would solve the current crisis of homelessness, of non distribution of mental health, of people taking jobs they hate and not doing them well because they hate their job, of all these crazy people you see spitting in food at fast food restaurants and all that because they studied for 4 years to be in to be in business and end up working at McDonald's, and they just hate what they do. It solves a lot of the problems, and the more it's been tested, the more it's been proven that employment numbers go up, not down, that people have better health habits, that families are more centric again around each other rather than external sources. Because when you relieve that pressure of, oh my God, if I don't work 110 hours this week, there won't be a roof over our head. When you relieve that pressure, people can be themselves again. And so I'm having a special on that. And part of what we're talking about, that child tax credit, the thing you were about to bring up, is that this is the closest thing America's ever gotten to a universal basic income, but for children.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's an interesting thing. I don't want to cut you off, Kim. Did you want to talk about this before I do?
No, go right ahead, Ken.
Okay. Because the child tax credit started, I think, in 1997. And the original intent was obviously to manage the cost of raising children. Originally, it provided $400 a child to families. It was non-refundable, meaning it could only reduce a family's income tax liability, right? It couldn't be used if they didn't have enough income to pay taxes on. So, and it's gone through a whole bunch of rounds of changes. Now, obviously, as a result of the pandemic, they've now come up with this version. And the thing that I like about it is because the original one did not give benefit to extreme low earners, low earning families. It turns out that it was, and I did a little research before the call, 40% of the benefit to households was for people earning over $100,000 a year. Okay, hardly people that desperately need help.
Right.
And only 15% went to households that were under $30,000, under 30,000 annual income, which largely was due to the fact that they couldn't use it. If they didn't make enough money, then they weren't filing income taxes, so you don't get a refund against something you never filed in the first place, right? So it wasn't helping the people that needed it the most. And now it's going to apply to all families. And the other thing that I like about it is, like, for example, they will pay monthly from July through December instead of single payments, which is like, I mean, this is one of those, like, smack your friggin' self in the forehead, like, duh. I mean, people with low incomes, and I know this from people I know living on the streets, and even people who aren't, have very, very big curves in their income. I mean, they could literally not get, work assignments and have virtually zero one month,
Right.
and then a massive windfall the next. So low income families, because of the fluctuation, it's going to help them and provide some kind of stability, right? And I mean, we don't even want to get into like childhood hunger in the United States, which is an absolute abomination
insane.
considering how
It is
wealthy this
insane.
country is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
You know.
totally insane. I agree.
This is what they're doing now is essentially a 1-year expansion of the tax credit, which is honestly an experiment. But there's a big push by the Democrats to make it a permanent part of the child tax credit. And I believe that they've kept it consistent with the 75 150 cap for single and family. But I mean, just really, I'm thrilled about it. I mean, I'm just delighted. But I could see, Adam, how you feel that this is just sort of a step, perhaps, in the direction of like acknowledging that, yeah, maybe we could do this for families. Maybe we could, maybe we could bolster the middle class or recreate the middle class.
Right.
Right.
And there are tests going on around the country, and Adam and I have spoken about it, where they are implementing something like that to see how it works. I think the last one we talked about was in San Jose, right, Adam?
San Jose and Stockton,
Yes.
California.
Wow, no kidding.
Yeah. Yep.
Stockton's giving away $500 a month with no strings attached to families of color who earn below a certain amount and indigenous families who earn below a certain amount.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful thing, but there are two big problems that are sticking points in all of these programs. And the first one is, heck, what the government designates as low income is not low income, it's non-existent income. They think someone making 30,000 a year is doing just fine. Yeah, that's if they live in a tent in the park with no electricity and no cell phone and no prospect of getting a better job, because without a cell phone, nobody can reach you. So, that's one problem. And the other problem is 500 is wonderful, but it doesn't improve your standard of life. And then the second huge problem is, in some of these tests, they're forgetting to exempt that money from the benefits you receive separately. So if a family is receiving Medicaid, food stamps, welfare, direct cash, WIC, or any of those programs, this 500 could end up throwing them off the program because their income just went up too high. And you've got to exempt these things. If you don't exempt them, the broken system comes and takes it over.
Right.
And I've spoken on the broken system ad nauseum. Our social safety net is the worst social safety net ever set up in the existence of mankind. And it's all because of means testing that it's broken, because the means test actually ruins it for the people who need it the most. And, I'm not going to go into the details, but it's just a broken system that needs to be fixed desperately.
I'm so glad you're passionate about this. Anything I can do to support that effort, I'm on.
You and I will talk about that, because between, you and me are both entertainers, and I believe we can get word out if we just do some PSAs. that would be amazing.
I'm all
And
over it.
I'll get them on my YouTube channel. I have friends who have YouTube channels, and we'll get everybody talking about it.
No,
But I also want to see if I can get you to spare us another hour one afternoon and give your opinion after you've done a little bit of due diligence on universal basic income. I mean,
sure.
it's been tried in Manitoba, Canada. It was a huge success. It's been tried in Finland. Right now in Sweden, I believe it is. Stockholm is in Sweden. Sweden is now starting a 6-month trial of universal basic income, the equivalent of $25,000 a year to every citizen of working age or above. So far, that has been in place for 3 months. They've already seen a huge improvement in public health, a huge improvement in public services, and a huge, huge improvement in people starting their own businesses.
That's amazing.
Yep.
That is so encouraging.
It is. It really
Not
is.
surprising, but very encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you raise people's self-esteem. I mean, I've seen it with homeless populations, people that are given anything that's sort of like an apartment, even if it's like, 200 square feet. That's something that they have, that they can take pride in. They could, they can keep
Exactly.
clean. It's just like all of a sudden other aspects of their life start to, they've done numerous studies of people, double blind, I mean, literally studies with, we're going to give all of these people living on the street this much money, and we're going to come back and check on them in a year. And the number of people who manage to put some of it aside and save it and actually invest it or do something with it or change their life, just because, I mean, it's one of the reasons that I got so passionate about the idea, not just of giving out these packages to help people, because we could have put together street teams of people to do that, but I wanted to create street teams of people who would not otherwise be street teams. Some guy in a bar who's sitting there getting hammered, listening to rock and roll music, is not going to be the guy who's going to choose to go to an outreach organization, pick up a bunch of bags and hand them out to people on the street. But if I give it to him at the show and say, look, you're going to have to walk home anyway, you're probably going to see somebody, give it to him. And the number of times that I've had people come back, I did this one show where a guy came back, he was kind of snarky and didn't understand what I was doing and why I was doing it. I just gave him some packages to take home. It was a rainy night. He comes back 20 minutes later. I'd given him 5. He has no packages, and he's crying. And I said, "What happened?" I thought he got beat up or something. And this is not a guy that would cry. He was like really obnoxious. And he said, "Man, I thought they were like within 2 blocks, man. They were all over the streets, and I gave it to this one guy, and he looked in the bag, and he looked at me, and he kept saying, 'This is for me. This is for me. This is for me.'" He kept saying it over and over and over again. I said, "Yeah, man, it's cool. You can have it." He goes, "Oh God, can I hug you?" And the two of them are standing in the rain, hugging at the corner of 16th and Mission in San Francisco. And
Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
He came back. He came back, and I said, "That's all I wanted." I mean, these are people. It's not a homeless problem. These are people. These are mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and babies and cats and dogs. They're not all running around with hypodermic needles in their hands trying to stab you. They're not all drug addicts. They're people. The ones that you hear about are the loudest. The ones that you don't hear about are in the encampments by themselves, just trying to fucking survive.
And let's make it clear. Let me make it clear. Let me clarify really strongly that it's not a mental health crisis that causes homelessness. Okay?
No,
it is a crisis of caring for everyone in our country instead of a precious few. Okay? Because there's only maybe 20 to 25% of the homeless have any mental health issues. Okay.
Right.
You'd be surprised. That's actually the average amongst people who are not homeless as well.
Yeah.
So there's no difference between the homeless population and mental health and the non-homeless population or the homed population and mental health. Mental health is a crisis all over the country. But if you listen to certain news outlets and organizations, they'll try to paint homelessness as a mental health problem. No, it's an unable to earn enough money to feed my family problem.
Yeah, I will tell you, I did work.
That it's not going to change.
I did work in Central America for a number of years when I was doing photography, and it was for street children living in El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Honduras, and Guatemala, and Mexico. There were hundreds of millions of kids being round up and desaparecidos. They were making them disappear. These were kids that came out of, and I want to get into our government's involvement in this, but basically what happened to the Mayan population and all these villages being destroyed and kids going to the cities. But, and a considerable number of these poor kids living on the streets were addicted to inhalants. shoe adhesive and whatever. And it wasn't because like, wow, this is going to be a great way to get high. It's because when they did it, they didn't feel cold and they don't feel hunger. So a lot of so when you've got people, even people who are using drugs, they're using drugs because they don't want to think about where they are.
Right.
Now, in El
Right.
Salvador, that's a common occurrence. In order to get kids into gangs, they tell them, here, sniff this, or here, ingest this, and you won't feel the pain in your stomach anymore.
Exactly right.
And then once hooked, they stay with the gang just to get the fix. So it's a way to increase the need to be in that gang.
You got it.
And then they use these poor kids. And
that's what we found out. That's what we found out. We were working with, we started a foundation a long time ago called the Remedios Fund. And it was just this little thing that this woman and I started. And then they got funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And now they're, millions and millions of dollars, and they're doing some amazing work down there. So
yeah, and hopefully things will change.
Wanted to interject what you were saying, Ken, about the guy that you gave 2 bags to and said, send these to somebody. It's all about awareness, because people go through life with blinders on and they don't realize the extent of this problem. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to deal with it. They don't know that they could be a solution, but it's very, very important to make the awareness.
I'm going to give my father a little credit. Now, Kim, I don't think I've ever spoken about my father on this show, have I?
I don't think so.
All right. So my dad and mom split when I was very, very young, and my father and I were estranged for almost a decade. And now we're pretty close, actually. I talk to him at least once, twice a week.
Oh, nice.
I've stayed at his house. When my mother passed away and I flew back to New York for the funeral, I stayed at his house. And we get along pretty well. We're a lot more alike than either one of us knew, and I grew up without that influence. But one thing I remember my father doing is when I was 6 years old, we used to go to Coney Island. I lived in Brooklyn.
Oh, me too.
Now, Coney Island, if you've been to Coney Island, you know what I'm talking about. There's tons of street performers there. There's tons of people that sit there with their guitar case open or their can out. And my dad was taken by one of them, and he handed me a $5 bill and told me, and I knew the value at 6 of a $5 bill. Right. I mean, I understood that's what paid for lunch for me and him.
Yeah.
So, I knew what the value was pretty much. And he said, go put it in the man's can. That was my introduction into giving. It was the first time I ever gave. And I highly suggest that parents of young children do something similar.
Absolutely.
Give your child at that age that gift of them going and putting $1, $5 into the hand of someone who truly needs it, because the smile and feeling they'll get from the person they put it in the can of, and I have the same feeling you're showing right there, Ken. That feeling never, ever, ever leaves you. It will come back to you when you're on a subway and you see someone shaking their can with their dark glasses and their cane. You'll see it again when you're walking down the streets of or should I say the hills of San Francisco. No matter where it is in LA, I mean, you walk down Hollywood Boulevard and the street performers and the homeless that are camped out are just everywhere. You never lose that gift once it's given to you. It's there forever. That feeling that I can't believe all I had to do was walk over and just drop something in a can, and I just made that person's life a little bit better.
Nope.
They're going to be able to eat. They're going to be able to go get a sandwich.
We've instilled that in our kids from a very, very young age. We took them down to Skid Row to drive through Skid Row. And when it's raining, they've asked, what do you think they're doing in the rain? Do you think their pillows are getting wet while it's raining? But we want them to be aware of that. We volunteer as a family. We volunteer in the soup kitchens. We help every year. Our church does a Christmas party for children of incarcerated parents. But I make sure that the kids are involved with that because I want them to be able to give back.
My wife and I have served Thanksgiving dinner at the church, not far from our house on Thanksgiving. She'll cook a whole meal. We'll eat early at 3 o'clock just to be there at 5 to start giving out turkey, cranberries, stuffing, whatever we can to the people who show up. Completely.
There's an organization called Homeboy Industries, which is ex-gang members in downtown LA. We took our children into that facility to have a tour of that facility so that they know what can happen on the streets of LA. And there are 9-year-old little kids that are part of this program that were running the streets as gangs. And, you can't shelter your children too much. You need to make sure that they're aware of that and they have a sense of leaving this world a better place than when
Right.
they
And you
started
have to
it.
do that before they graduate high school, because when you get into the college mindset, that kind of gets lost because everything's about how you're going to conduct yourself in business when you get out of college. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, you are now in college. You're going to owe $3 million when you leave. Here's how you earn it back.
Yep, I have 3 of them. So,
So, you know,
Ken,
there we go. Ken, I had to make
thank
you
you.
laugh again, because otherwise the tears were going to overtake your day. And
I mean, this is ridiculously obvious just from my reaction, but I am so honored to know you both. Truly, I
we're
really
honored
am.
to know you.
I'm
Thank you.
deeply, deeply moved by your stories and your commitment. And man, you know, it's just a handful more people like you in the world, we would be in much better shape.
Well, we're trying, and that's all that matters, is that you always try. It's very hard to succeed in curing the world's ills, but if you're trying, then you're doing something right.
And
That's
we
my
do it
opinion.
with guests like you. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for being here today.
Telling
Really.
us your story. We greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it.
You made my month. The feeling of this is going to
awesome.
last with me for a while.
All right, Ken,
Well,
what's your best one-liner? I'm sorry. What's your best one-liner? Come on, you've got hundreds of them.
Right now, gosh.
If I give you one first, will that help? I'll do a riddle.
No, but I'll tell you one of my favorite jokes.
Go ahead.
It's 45 seconds, give or take. Two
All
guys are sitting in a bar on the top floor of a high rise. Windy day. High rise is literally moving a little bit back and forth. Bartender, it's late, middle afternoon, so there's not a lot of people, just the two at the bar and the bartender. One guy looks at the other one and goes, "Man, can you believe how windy it is out there?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Jesus." They have a couple more drinks. He goes, "I swear to God, you can open up the door and there's like a terrace, like an observation place." He said, "I bet I could step right off the edge and the wind would blow me right back on." And the guy goes, "No, don't be ridiculous. You step off the edge, you're going to die." He goes, "No, I think so." He has one quick shot to fortify himself, walks over, opens up the door. The wind's blowing in, knocking off glasses and napkins. Bartender's like, "Jesus, close the door." He closes the door, steps off. And sure enough, a gust of wind comes along and whoosh, blows him like right across one side of the building, whoosh, the second side, whoosh, third side, whoosh, fourth side, whoosh, back and forth, back on the terrace. Opens up the door, wind's blowing again, closes the door. He goes, "Pretty windy, isn't it?" He goes, "It's incredible." Then he sat there to have a couple more drinks and he says, "You think if I did that, it would do the same thing?" And he goes, "It's windier now than it was a minute ago. Yeah, just be careful. But yeah, I'm sure you can do it." And he goes, "I don't know." He takes another couple of quick shots. He goes outside, opens up the door, turns around, looks at them in the bar, steps off, 42 stories straight down. Boom! Dead. Bartender's looking at the other guy cleaning the glasses. He goes, "You know, Superman, when you're drunk, you're an asshole."
That's a good one.
That made me have to do
That's
a
a good
short
one.
one. So I'm going to do a short riddle. All right. What's the difference between a well-dressed man on a bicycle and a very not well-dressed man on a tricycle?
What?
A tire.
Oh, man.
It works on many levels, Ken.
It
works on many
every
levels.
Yes, really. Just as somebody who appreciates semantics, it's good.
Oh man, you have been one of the most fun guests we've had. We really appreciate you
Yes.
taking
And
time out for us.
And
Like-
heartfelt
likewise.
as well.
And
Heartfelt
I
as
will
well.
not be leaving your
Yes.
Clubhouse group just because you appeared. I'm going to be staying at the Good News Network.
Well, you're good people with huge hearts, and I really appreciate knowing you both.
And Ken, make sure you get Adam your contact information because we are going to put it at the end of our video so that
Wonderful.
our audience can get in touch with you.
Yeah, I
if they would like.
gave him a sheet that's got probably more information on me than
Yeah,
he
I have
would.
it. I have it
Yeah.
all. It's going to be in that description box. It's right about, let's see, right about there underneath
Okay.
this video.
Awesome. And Adam, how do people get in touch with us, or if they have questions, where do they
You always
send
ask me
them?
this, fax them. No, that doesn't work. Telegraph. That's it. No, you know what? Just email it to questions@cruisingintobetterfinancialfuture.com. Email us your questions at questionsinto CRUZIN, into a betterfinancialfuture.com. And when we have somebody on that's an expert that can answer your question, they're going to be asked it. I promise you. We always take the top questions we're asked to make sure that we focus on a large group of our audience every time. So that's what you can do. And of course, you can visit Kim at cruisecreditconsulting.com. You can find me at usfa.com, usfinancialalliance.com. And there are multiple places you can find Ken Newman. Whether it be walking around in San Francisco, or whether it be at a trade show, or whether it be at magnetproductions.com website, or I'll list everything so you can reach him, especially if you have a business that needs someone to make your presentations to groups better. Ken's the guy to go to, but not if you want to mime. No matter what, no mimes.
No mimes.
Perfect.
Because a mime is a terrible thing to waste. Come on, I owed you that one.
We're almost even. You can hit me with one more, and I'd still deserve it. I've given a couple of really bad one-liners that are so bad they're good. But all of that being said, this has been a very pleasurable afternoon, and Ken, I can't wait to talk to you one-on-one again a couple of days from now when both of us aren't heavily scheduled. I think there's some stuff we can do that might just start some change everywhere, and so
I'm all over it.
Yep. I actually have a meeting I'm going to now, as I mentioned, in your clubhouse, as soon as we finish taping, to start the registration of my 501c3 with my partner.
Yes, congratulations. Good luck with that.
So,
I know it's a
financial literacy.
slog, but you got it.
Yep. We'll get there.
You got
We'll
this.
get there. I'm climbing a stairway to heaven. On that note, I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week. What are we going to do next week, Kim?
We're going to help you cruise into a better financial future.
That's
Thanks,
right.
everyone.
I almost forgot. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for being a part of Cruising into a Better Financial Future. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. We'll see you next time. Bye.